to come up the Alps, off the Alp, it's an achievement in its own.
They were in second place man over the top, Jimenez, at the top of the Col de Glandon. Now then, this is showdown territory for this group here. They've got one more big climb to come, and they're looking like they're taking it relatively easy, but when you think that further back down the road now, there's some riders who are losing 20-30 minutes or more, and we've still got an awful long way to go to finish, because there's still these chaps just coming up towards the top of the Col de Glandon. They've still got 52 kilometres to go to finish. They drop down for about 25 those kilometres, and then along the flat till we get to Bourg d'Oisans, and then we start the climb up toward the top of the Alpe d'Huez. So the stage is being set to see who can get this stage today, and the jerseys could well be changing. Well, he's in trouble here, isn't he, too, mate?
Yes, well, Livingstone has done a lot of work. I think his job is over for the day. He did a lot of riding up this climb, so he's paying for it now. But that's what he was taking the team for, and I think there was a lot of concern about him not performing as well as last year. But I think today he has proved that he's still in very, very good shape, and what he's done today is a great achievement.
So Livingston was sent up there, taken in turns they do to go with the team leader, which is Ulrich, and there you can see Cloden alongside him. In his own right, Cloden is a tremendously good rider, by the way, because those who watched Eurosport's coverage of the Paris-Nice last year, I remember that Cloden got that victory there and went on to the Tour Romandie as well. So he's got enormously good strength. The way he got the Paris-Nice last year, I'm very impressed, because Ulrich wasn't riding, but he comes from not far from Ulrich. He's also an East German. They have ridden together, got a very, very similar program, and he's very dedicated to Ulrich. And I think that as you're watching now, the chap there in the white jersey too, Jalabert, he's come good too, and there could be a little bit of sprint up here, because I think there's only two riders in front on the King of Mountains as the climb has at now on the road.
Yes, that's Roux who has went over the top, and then Jimenez. So they're coming up to the King of the Hills for third position. So we will see definitely Jalabert having a go to get some points here, because he's in a position to take the King of the Mountains prize today. He could very well do it.
So 40 points have gone for the first man, 35 for the second. There's 30 points at stake for the third place man. Roux is trying to get the jersey. Jalabert's trying to get the jersey. It's certainly all changing before your very eyes, live on Eurosport this afternoon. Belly there with the very glasses and no hat on. He's a good mountain climber, and Ulrich is looking good today. And also for the orangey jersey in the background, Bugart looks like he's going well today too. Gart Elliott is in the bluish colours for the Mappe team, that's just rolling up behind the little arrowhead of Cloden, Ulrich and Jalabert as Bogart starts with the blue and the yellow further back. That is Moreau. We can see Rousseau on the far side in the red, white and blue of the French national champions. I'm not quite sure who is the pink jersey of the Once team, because they've got a number of Once riders up there. It's Billock, is it? Right, whoops, there they go. And it's Jalabert looking for those third place points, 30 points it is. He rockets away here. Well, this is certainly going to please the French. They're doing well in the race this year. There was a lot of head scratching and tutting when the organisation selected no less than 8 French teams for the Tour this year, and that meant no less than 51 French riders starting the Tour compared with 35 last year. But from day one, when Moreau took the yellow jersey in the prologue time trial, then they've certainly been performing here and there and everywhere. A little bit here, and when Jalabert got that victory on the day of the 14th of July, the Bastille Day, then the whole of France erupted with that one, because that's the second time he's done it on the 14th of July, and Jalabert is still there or thereabouts, and we'll wait for a few more rides to come over the top, and then they go down here. A quick calculation information off the back of the envelope, I think it's called for, from Mike Smith back in Paris. How do you rate it now on the King of the Mountains?
Well, there you go, David. 40 for Rooks and 30 for Jalabert in third place. So I reckon that Rooks has just held on with 109 points to Jalabert's 106. So it's all going to come down to the big showdown for the stage win, the yellow jersey and the polka dot jersey when we reach you at the top of L'Alpe d'Huez.
Well, riders then have been doing all the work. You can see the pain they've been going through, and the telecoms are going to regroup now on the drop down the other side of the mountain, heading in toward the valley of Bourg-d'Oisans. And that's the descent at the moment. Anything particularly difficult? What do you remember, Sean, going down there? Thank goodness it's dry, so it shouldn't be too difficult on the bends, huh?
No, it's not a majorly dangerous descent, but you know, some of these guys they get up to very, very high speed, and you can sometimes, you know, take it a bit too much speed in the corners, and yes, you can run into problems, but it's not one of the majorly dangerous descents.
Donald Rooks on the front then, they're dropping down here now. 7:40 I'm hearing now for Simon. That's probably back to Rooks to him, and the peloton is 5:40, so probably Simon is only 2 minutes back on that group. Could have a chance to regroup on the way down. We're dropping down now through that big lake you may have seen on the side, then the Lac de Grand Maison, coming down there off the top of the climb then, and down alongside that little river, the L'Olle, O-double-L-E, dropping down in past another big lake which I've yet to come to, and then into the valley and up towards the Bourg-d'Oisans. They'll be going alongside the little river of La Romanche as they get to the bottom and pick it up, but there is the lake, the Lac de Grand Maison. It's the big house lake. No big house in sight, nor is Rooks at the moment, pressing on to try and get to the bottom and probably up to the Bourg-d'Oisans with a lead that may give him a chance of staying close to the front on the final climb. Nice picture here of the leader on the left-hand side of the screen, Rooks, going down off the top of the Col de Glandon. On the right-hand side is Jimenez, who's chasing him for the Benesto team. And when they went across the top of the climb there at the top of the Col de Glandon, it was the first man over the top then was Rooks, and in second spot was Jimenez. So that was the position at the top of that climb. And on the time check back to Simon, who's battling for that yellow jersey, he was 7 minutes 40 seconds down on Rooks, but more interestingly 1 minute to 50 seconds on the group which contains Ulrich and Armstrong. So he's still hanging on in there, Simon, looking for that yellow jersey today on this stage. Been a few problems with the riders being shot off the back as we're going up toward the top on the impetus of the Rooks now is driving this thing, but look how some... Oh, Belloc is just changing his bike. We saw him in the group, but Belloc is now changing his bike. Now, at the moment, it looks like they're going through their mid-afternoon tea break, I should think. Sean, is this the time to stock up?
Well, yes, everybody's going for drinks to the cars. They're having a bit to eat. As I said, it's, you know, difficult on the climb, so this is the moment. We went over the climb and it went down a bit, and here there's a little bit of uphill again before they really start going all the way down to the valley. You know, we see Livingstone, who was having a lot of problems with the climb. He's back in the group now, so Ulrich have three teammates again. You have Vingercroft, Cloden and Livingston, so he's he's well protected in the group. And I think Simon, who was around the 2 minutes at the top, he was with a number of riders, Martin Van Backer from Rabobank, and then there was a number of other riders with him. Possibly he can come back because at the moment they're not pushing on ahead, so it'll be a chance for him to rejoin the group of Ulrich.
Run down on those riders in that group then as they went over the top of the climb. Rooks was first, R-O-U-X. In second spot, Jimenez from the Ivanesto team. Third, Jalabert. Fourth, Garzelli. Fifth, Sevilla. Sixth, Bogart. Seventh, Ulrich. Eighth, Echeverria. Ninth, Morrow. 10th, Belocchi 11th, Leseca 12th, Armstrong 13th, Roos 14th, Belly 15th, Heras 16th, Botero 17th, Rubera 18th, Kivilav. So those are the first 20 or 18 out the first lot. There's a bit more than that in there, but that's the rundown. Give you some idea. Just for everybody's anybody there are those who are poised to be in the top 10 places at the end of the Tour de France in Paris on Sunday week. I'll read them out again. I did sort of slowish there in case people want to jot these things down. I'll do it yet again. Just take them in order now so you can check your little list as they run down here past the lake of the Grand Maison. The order across the top of the summit was as follows: Roux, Jimenez, Jalabert, Garzelli, Sevilla, Bogaert, Ulrich, Echeverria, Morrow, Belocchi, Leseca, Armstrong, Roos, Belly, Heras, Botero, Rubera and Kivilev. And if you've got that lot down, you perm any 10 from those 18, and that's the way it's going to be in Paris. But don't ask me in which order. Recruitment carrying on here at in the main peloton, such it is. I suppose we want to call it the chase group for the leaders who are out there still, Roux and Jimenez. And look at that going down there. Isn't that gorgeous? Just soak it up. That's super, isn't it? That's a lovely descent down there, and I somehow don't think that the many riders have got dropped on the top there. Maybe the odd one or two might get back. We've given you the top 18 at this, and we were going down it. Sean, looking down there, I think the only one man we feel is sort of missing at the moment is Julik, isn't it? I can't think of anybody else that we've lost at the moment.
No, Julik is the one who did be expected to be in that leading group, and he had problems on the first major climb in the Madeleine, and on the Col de Landon he was losing time very, very early.
Mike Smith, I think you have some information on the Kingdom House competition.
Yes, well, we've got confirmation now of those rankings there, and as you see, Roux is indeed still just ahead of Laurent Jalabert, with Jimenez in third place. But of course, remember, there are still exactly those same points as we've seen on the first two major climbs available when they get to the stage finish as well. So things could still change. It's a big battle here for the polka dot jersey between Roux, still out in front, and Jalabert, who for my money, I must say, David and Sean, looks very, very cool in this lead chase group, Laurent Jalabert. He's already won 2 stages. His morale must be sky high. You look at him, he's looking very good.
Well, I'll come back then to the action of our leading group here, who undoubtedly, I suppose, from this little lot here, I can't see anybody else coming up to them to challenge for today's stage, so that could be well it. And of course, the opportunity is then of changing completely the situation on the overall classification, because they'll certainly begin to shove themselves up toward the top before the time trial tomorrow. Let me just put you in the picture about the classification as it was this morning. And if you haven't been catching up what's going on, we had an outrageous day on the stage which took them into Pontarlier before yesterday. So go back 2 days, and the reason that it's looking very odd, if I excuse the term, is that we had a group of 15 men went away on that particular stage, and they got a lead of something like 35 minutes on the main field. They all sort of coasted in together. It was a pouring wet day. Hello, he's saying, I think he's saying enough's enough. He just did a little flick with his hands. Kim, I think he's going back into the group now. He just went like that.
Yes, it's quite possible, because he knows the gap you have is not sufficient to do anything, on the Alpe d'Huez. He's not even going to get to the Alpe d'Huez, so maybe he's just going to wait for this the chasing group.
Right, then just put you in the picture about the overall situation. After we came out of Pontalia day before yesterday, Stuart O'Grady took over that yellow jersey. He jumped up from third to first, and he's got the jersey, but he's way off the back now. And he also took over the points jersey, the green jersey, which he could well take today by the time we get to the finish, because none of the people who are challenging for that jersey, particularly Zabo, are in this front group, and there are only 15 sets of points back from the 1st to 15th on the climb up to the finish today, so there's no way that it's going to change the situation as at this morning. We've already had one earlier sprint a bit down the road, but as far as Stuart O'Grady is concerned, he should go out of yellow into green, and that's his ambition, is to wear the green jersey into the finish of the Champs-Élysées in Paris on Sunday week. So Stuart O'Grady, who was in yellow following that amazing breakaway group into Pontalia, is now going to move into the green properly. The question which we asked you, by the way, earlier on has been now repeated. The mountain stage are coming. Will Pantani and Veronk be missed? Well, we're on the mountain stage now. It's up to you to decide whether they'll be missed or not. The answer is yes or no. I'm not sure whether that should be missed from the race or missed from the characters, because although Veronk isn't much of a character, Pantani really was a zany oddball. So will they be missed? And Simon, I think, comes back here now, Sean.
Yes, he was coming back. He was closing out race rate. He was coming back very quickly, and now he's just rejoined the leading group.
So they were up. Send in your answers to the Eurosport.com and or your decision, yes or no, and it will be put out by Mike Smith in the programme at the end of this particular one. We have a look back at some of the key things, because you can imagine not many people will be on air. Be watching our programme on air all the way through, since we start this morning at 10:30, and we're going to finish around about 5:15. So we only got another hour and a quarter to go at the moment, Sean. So it's a bit of a doddle now. It's all downhill for us too from this point in, having been on the air since 6:30 this morning. So we've been at it now 10:30. It's been over 6 hours in the saddle, as have the riders, by the way. So my thoughts go with them, with the 3 horse category climbs today. A tough old day in the saddle, and tomorrow again we've got the climb up the mountain time trial. This man Rooks then has been enlivening the whole thing so far. So we've now got Rooks on the front still, on his own now, because it looks as if Jimenez is going to sit up and go back into the chase group, which contains Armstrong and Ulrich. If anyone's joined us recently, we go back to, we won't be perhaps having a close-up on the faces of the riders, which often gives away a lot of how they're feeling. Sean, you're feeling now, looking back at what we saw on that climb about Armstrong and Ulrich, and where Armstrong's been riding since then.
Well, of course, Armstrong has been riding to the rear of the group of Ulrich for quite a lot, and on a lot of the climbs he started really, I suppose, on the second half of the Col de Madeleine, but on the Glandon he seemed to be always in the last couple of riders in the group of Ulrich, and we see the Telecom riders were doing all the work they have been doing for a long time now. So I think definitely Ulrich is going to test Armstrong on the Alpe d'Huez, and I think not only Ulrich, but there will be a lot of guys testing each other, because it will be very, very hotly contested on Alpe d'Huez. It always is.
Right, well, Armstrong versus Ulrich, the head-to-head which has been spoken about so much during the run-up to the Tour de France this year. Lance Armstrong, twice winner of this race in the last couple of years, looking for his hat-trick. Now, he was lying this morning on general classification, 35 minutes and 19 seconds down on Stuart O'Grady, who went in that breakaway group on the stage into Pontalia, when these 15 men grabbed some 35 minutes lead. But Ulrich this morning, 27th, 35 minutes and 46 seconds down, so there's only about some 33 seconds difference between those two in favour of Armstrong. This is where they're going to test each other, and you say, well, can they improve on the general classification very much? The answer is yes, because if I give you a rundown on those riders that were in the break on the Pontalia stage, none of them are up with this group on your screen here. O'Grady is way down the road now. He's going to certainly lose his yellow jersey. The thing is that Simon might get it, because he was 4 minutes 32 seconds down on O'Grady this morning, and he just got himself back into the group. What's going on here?
He's looking for
doctor's
doctors, yes.
Right, let me go back then quickly to the overall classification, because you don't get much of it in the... Oh, what are we doing with the England flag flying? And is that the Irish shamrock or something above the top of it? Well, I didn't quite see what went on there, but you've got to wait a long time, though, because David Miller's a bit further down the road, injured as he was on day one, still soldiering on, but I think suffering today in the mountains. Yeah, going back to general classification then. Third overall, Bram de Groot, Rabobank, 21 minutes and 16 seconds down. Well, he's out today in that back patch. Kivilev has number 74 in his back. The Kazakhstan rider is riding for Cofidis, and he is in this group at the moment, and he was 22 minutes and 7 seconds down on O'Grady as at this morning. Teutenberg also went in that break the other day. He is 27 minutes and 15 seconds down, and he's certainly going to be struggling to stay up there in this top lot at the end of the day. Jens Voigt exactly the same. He's 29.23 down. He was 6th this morning. Dirksen 7th at 29.49. It sounds a lot, doesn't it? In 8th place, the Rabobank rider Wolters 30 minutes and 12, and Turpin of AG2R, he's 30.35 this morning down, and Aitor Gonzalez of the breakaway group was there in 10th spot at 31.56. So many of those riders in that breakaway group pull themselves up the general classification, but they're going to lose virtually all they gained on that day, and we're going to see that people like Armstrong, Botero, Ulrich and the rest are moving up. They may not take the yellow jersey today, but certainly we're going to see a great shuffling of the pack. Back then with our leader, Brooks. He's on his own now, and not exactly the best way to stay away from a pack like that once they start to go, but he may get to the turn at Bourg-Brozon with a bit of luck. I mentioned earlier on that Dave Miller is still soldering on. If you want to send a card, a message, a letter to any of the riders in the Tour de France, or the team manager or race official, as the case may be, you can actually send them, and I'll give you the address in just a minute. Get a pencil and paper ready, I'll come back to you, and it'd be nice if David still soldiers on. If he'll certainly make it tomorrow after the time trial, and his injuries haven't been too much, could well after rest day stay with us in the Pyrenees. He's going to learn from that. If you want to send him a card, or anybody else for that matter, then if you've got a pencil and paper, this is what you do. You write down the name of the rider, let's say it's David Miller, on your card or your letter, and then you put down his team, and he rides for Cofidis, and then you put the words Tour de France Dynapost, D-Y-N-A-P-O-S, Dynapost. That's the important thing, is Dynapost. And if you put the town down where they are in, say, a couple of days' time, find that helps. So you don't have to put the town down. You just put the name, the team, the word Tour de France, and the word Dynapost. That's important, D-Y-N-A-P-O-S-T. And they're collected by these Dynapost people and put in a big van at the stage end, and an official from the teams goes and picks it up. Or, in fact, anybody if you want to write up to Jean-Marie Blanc and say good race this year, you can write to him as well. Same old address that goes through there. So perhaps you'd like to put pen to paper. Nice to get out. I was going to say send a birthday card to Cursifu, but he's retired from the race, so a bit of bad luck as far as he's concerned. This is fantastic, great racing territory. That's one thing about the Tour de France and the Tour of Italy and the Tour of Spain. They all have some wonderful big mountains to sort the men from the boys. The sort of mountains that don't exist except probably in races like the Tour of Switzerland has some pretty good mountains, but these are really classic racing territories, and the sun fortunately has been with us all day today. We had been threatened at one time early on this week. It was going to be a very nasty time with the clouds coming down, and there's some threat we thought of maybe rain or possibly snow on the mountains. It's not been like that. It's been a good day, and really there's just been a war of attrition. We're getting rid of the riders who don't have any climbing ability, except Bobby Julich, who has missed this break here, and we're now running in towards that final climb. In the distance you can see the snow on top of the Alps, and this is the run in towards the final big one of the day. I hope you'll stay with us. We've probably got about another hour's racing or so to go, of which most of it will be up the climb of the Alpe d'Huez, where the record is held by Marco Pantani, 37 minutes and 35 seconds, set in 1997. This could be the big showdown of the OK Corral on this, the first big mountain day in the Tour de France. This is a sort of scenery that, often commentators are told, shut up let the pictures tell the story, and the beautiful background here doesn't really tell the story. It just shows you there's something great mountains to go up, and the one they've still got to go. But it is gorgeous. And one thing about helicopter shots, they can give you a feel of the whole of the area which they're going through. It isn't like driving your car down there or riding a bike, because you look up, you see the trees, and sometimes you can't see beyond the trees, but you can sense the height of the climbs, the drama of the scenery in which this race is going on, and it almost puts us in a humble position, doesn't it? Little men on bikes, well, little, I mean little specks. When we go up in the sky there, we see the grandeur of the Alps, this lovely greenery of these trees, and against the might of nature, the climbs of nature, the mountains have been put there, roads built there by man. People are riding bikes, and they're riding bikes to earn money. They're also riding bikes because they have this sort of masochistic interest in riding the bicycle, because they enjoy doing it, and then they start racing. And on a day like this, when they get to the top, you want to see the state they're in when they finish, and you think, well, why do you do it? Well, like they do it, of course, because they love riding bikes. They earn a bit of money doing it as well. It's also a personal challenge to get out there and ride your bike. It's a great way to enjoy life and get exercise on a bike. But when you go racing, you start winning, the feeling's even greater. Right, back to the cheese, which is slowly melting, Mike.
Well, slowly melting, David, but in fact it's a bit of a plateau, because you saw the big group with all the strong men behind actually having a bit of a tea break, if you like, after they've gone over the top of a Col du Glandon. And in fact, Laurent Roux's advantage has gone up again ever so slightly. Still 6 minutes and 50 seconds. This could turn out to be, and one assumes at this stage that he's not going to make it to the top, to the finish at L'Alpe d'Huez, but it still could be the longest break of this tour.
Well, you keep the facts and figures there. So, and who got the one last year? Was it Jens Voigt? I know that we had Voigt, Decker, and Duran all battling away last year to go for the longest breakaway, didn't they? But at the moment, it looks like you say this one might be the longest one of the tour so far. And not only has it been a long one, it's been a very remunerative one, hasn't it? Because you got himself £2 grand's worth of money at the top of that climb, eh?
Well, of course, there are monetary prizes on top of all the climbs. Obviously, they vary from one climb to another, David, but as you rightly reminded everybody, the Henri Desgrange one at the top of the first big climb, the Madeleine, that's the biggest one, isn't it? But I think we've also got a new memorial prize as well this year, have we not, when we get to the Tourmalet?
Yes, Jacques Godet, the one in Godet, come back with the fellow who died a couple of years ago. You've got it, I haven't. It's gone through one ear and out the other. Go on.
You mentioned Jacques Godet, and I'm quite sure that's just the gentleman it is, because he was in charge of this Tour de France for many, many years before Jean-Marie Leblanc took over running the Tour, and I'm quite sure that that's exactly what it is, a new memorial to Jacques Godet, who died not too long ago. And there's another big prize when we get to that award, to that point, when we climb the Tourmalet, when we get down to the Pyrenees. Not we, you and I, David, but these riders.
Yeah, so in fact the old grey cells haven't completely gone away. I was right, it was Souvenir Jacques Godet on the 14th stage from Tarbes to Lutzardiden over the Col de Tourmalet. But on the Col de Tourmalet, the same sort of money, 20,000 French francs and 10,000 francs per second, so about £2,000 and £1,000. But of course, we only realise, Mike, by the time we go into next year for the Tour de France, we'll be in Euros here in the Tour de France, and that will, I suppose, simplify matters when we go and do the Spanish races and the race in Switzerland and the Tour of Italy and so on, because all the prizes will be in Euros, and that certainly, as far as the Tour of Italy is concerned, is going to be for us commentators a real sort of breathing, because the lira, you can be a millionaire in liras and still not have enough money to buy a cup of coffee, but I'm exaggerating.
But I've got a poser for you on that one though, David.
Oh God, here we go. You always make my life difficult. Go on.
UCI regulations always quote prize money, actually, and fines dished out to riders in Swiss francs.
Yes.
Now, Switzerland are not part of the EU. They will not be going to the Euro. So what happens then?
We'll go to pound sterling. Now, that's a good question. But I think in fact, yes, they will still, I would guess, still quote in the Swiss francs. The reason I say that is that the UCI is based, and its headquarters are in Switzerland, and I think they want to retain some part of history, and therefore the simplest thing to do is to still use Swiss francs. And the other reason why they've used Swiss francs, I think, Mike, is that whilst we're talking about the tours and the races which we cover on Eurosport over here, let's bear in mind that on British Eurosport we covered the Tour Down Under earlier on this year, and that was in Australian dollars, that the prize money, and of course then the fines would be Swiss francs. And because this sport is international, the governing body is based in Switzerland, I think they will always go on using Swiss francs, because say you're racing in America, you're racing in South America, racing in Australia, racing in Malaysia, racing in China, they will then convert all of the monies into Swiss francs, so it won't disappear. The euro will just apply to the races that take part in the European community. I reckon that's right, do you?
Yeah, I'm sure you've sussed it out absolutely right, David.
Right, back then to the riders here in the flatter part of the course, and that again, well, we've had horses trying to race the field, and now we've got a man on a speedboat. One or two riders probably got back, but I don't know, Sean, if you get much messages over the headphones as to whether we've got any more people coming up. Has Julie got back by any chance?
We haven't heard. I don't think. No, Julik did not get back. He lost quite a bit of time on the climb. He was dropped earlier, but Simon came back. He was around the 2 minutes at the top, so he comes back quite quickly.
And I think he's got a teammate too as well. There's Laurent Jabez ripping off his waistcoat. So well, they're taking a short break here. You can see them there trotting alongside the lake, and we're going to do the same thing. I think it's the last commercial break before we hit that great climb at Bourg d'Oisans. One of those K-Electric's motor racing circuits, doesn't it? Or they go whizzing round with the little cars on flatted wheels and whiz round you go. Well, I mean, it's not. It's the Tour de France, and we're on the road running in towards the Bourg d'Oisans. Well, he's still motoring on the front here, Laurent Fuchs. Remind me, because I've got a head like a sieve at the moment. Sean, when did he go away? I mean, from originally. Rooks, when did he first leave?
Rooks, he left at 6 kilometres. The three went away. Rooks, Jimenez, and Tolo.
6 kilometres. Wow! And when he gets to the bottom of the climb up the Alpe d'Huez, for more statistics coming up, we'll just see how far he's been out there on his own.
Well, this is in fact, David, just looking ahead to the finish in L'Alpe d'Huez, where obviously this race has been on a number of occasions since it first went up there in 1952, and Fausto Coppi was the winner. Yes, indeed. But look at these more recent names. Andy Hampston, remember that, 1992, and then 1994, the Italian Conti. A couple of wins for Marco Pantani in 95-97, and that memorable victory for Giuseppe Guerini 2 years ago, when he was leading the group by, I think it was only about 25 to 30 seconds when he collided with that photographer, and he leapt back on his bike and still won the stage. For me, that's one of the most memorable victories of Alpe d'Huez in recent years.
Well, they've got now just 20 kilometres to go to the top of that climb of the Alpe d'Huez, and Rooks is still pressing on here to try and get there. Look at these monumental mountings here, these great craggy peaks, and down below this lovely flatlands with the well-cut lawns and the greenery and the very pleasant and relaxed atmosphere here. Well, the Tour de France comes along here with all the braising noise of the cacophony of the horns and the hooters and the publicity cavalcade that's gone down the road, and the people getting their special treats off those cars. They've gone through now, they've gone through an awful long time, and they're going up towards the top of the climb. You may wonder where all the spectators are gone. There ain't many here, you might say. Well, they're all on the climb. If you've never ever seen the Alpe d'Huez in the past, then I suggest you stay with us for the next 20 kilometres of this race. The gap then for Rooks at the moment is some 7 minutes, and Sean Kelly here as we go up and along this road here. What are his prospects now of getting to the top, or do you think he's going to get caught at some point? Because he went through a terrible bad patch at the last climb, eh?
Well, it looked like he was going through a bad patch, but I think also, it was a very steep section of the climb, and that made it look very difficult, and it looked like he was suffering a lot. But he's done an unbelievable ride. 650 all the time. He's holding them off out there, but he's out there for so long. When he hit the Alp, it's going to be a very, very hard climb for him, because he's ridden like all this stage on his own, and that's going to take its toll when he hits the bottom slopes of the Alpe d'Huez.
How do you rate the Alpe d'Huez, Sean? We just seen a very steep climb up the Col de Glandon. How is this one? You and I drove up. If you can compare it with other climbs in the Alps, just how does it rate, and why has it got such a charisma about it?
Well, first of all, you arrive here and you have done a very hard day. Today's stage is not one of the longest ones when you arrive here. It's 209 kilometres, but there were some of the years where you had maybe 230 kilometres and 3 or 4 big climbs. Today they have two outside category climbs, the Madeleine and the Glandon. So the riders are going to be tired. Racing. They've been racing very, very hard. So that's what makes it difficult. Just at the end of the day, it's so demanding after such a hard day, and a lot of tired legs, and that's going to be the really hard part. But it's not the climb that is I reckon it's not one of the hardest climbs of the tour, but when the time it comes and the moment it comes in the race, that's the hardest point.
But what about the crowd, which has been up here for the last 2 days, some of them, and in fact they couldn't come up here from about 8 o'clock on this morning except by foot or by bicycle? Does that lift the riders? Because the atmosphere is quite unique. I don't think there's another climb in any event I know in the world that has that same atmosphere. Does that lift you even when you're sort of dying on your bike?
Well, if you're dying on your bike, I don't think it'll lift you. But if you're still feeling good and you're going for the stage, or you're riding for the classement, or you're riding very, very well, then it does give you a lift, because there's so many people encourage you out there, and no matter what country they're from, there's always people will encourage you, and I think that gives you a lift. But you just look at the front wheel, and you just climb away up there, and then you just give it 100% all the way on the Alp, and you don't really take too much notice of people, although you know that they're in the background. But you just get on your job and you concentrate 100% on what you're at.
And this man has certainly been through a very, very bad patch, Laurent Roux, and he knows what he's going to come up to in the future. He's been there a long time. Just one kilometre to go towards the sprint. He's been in the sport for many years now, Laurent Roux, so real battling warrior, this fellow. And there is a big climbs of a big mountains roundabout. We can see some of the best mountains in the Alps. We've got the Mont Blanc, which we can actually pick up in the far distance. And the riders here, well, the grandness of the Alps, I think you said, Sean, you don't even really notice them because you're so stuck into the bike racing. Now we're seeing it. This morning we looked out across the balcony from our hotel at the top of the Alpe d'Huez, and last night too, when the sun was setting and they could see the sun on the tops of the mountains, a pinky colour, and it was another different colour where the snow was, and the shafts of light coming through the clouds onto the mountains last night. Well, that is superb. This morning, a sparkling clear morning on the Alpe d'Huez, and I was really again soaking up this atmosphere, the lovely clear air as we go through the final sprinter day. This is Bourg-Roison. We turn here and go up those mountains, and this to me is a great part of the world. But you on the bikes, as you were telling me when we came along, you don't actually see much of it, do you?
No. You sure don't. You do not, and when you arrive there with the people, with that amount of people, the 21 hairpin bends, you never really see although there's a sign there with so many people around and so many camping cars, you never see what corner you're on, and it looks totally different when you arrive in the race compared to if you come out to see the Alpe d'Huez a number of weeks before the tour.
So the riders then know what they've got ahead in terms of the bends. They go around the 21. Do you count the bends down, Sean, or do you just sort of keep riding till there's no more bends?
You just keep on going, and you set your pace, and you know exactly how much you have to go, and you just give it your best all the way.
Roux now through Bourg-Roison, starting to, I would say, savour the glory of being out there on his own, but he's really put in a fantastic ride so far, and has got the special we've got some report, by the way. It looks like our lads went out with the cameras this morning about the space. We've been talking about them. They've been waiting there for the last couple of days, and in fact yesterday when we drove up the climb there, the climb has been known in the past as the Dutch mountain because they've won this stage so often in the past. 7 times I think they've won it. 60 Italians. Let's look back at some of the camera work this morning. Well, there it is, and the outburst this morning with the riders going up here. And I said the only way to get up, really, unless you've got official pass like we've got, and everybody here just riding up this one as best they can do. I hope that back in British Eurosport that Mark Robson is looking at this one. I don't know whether they're watching different pictures, but he made me commenting on this because he and Chris Borman rode up this mountain about 8 weeks ago, I think it was, for the special 1-hour piece by British Eurosport on the Tour de France, and a preview where they interviewed, and Chris Borman interviewed David Miller. Look at the atmosphere here, absolutely phenomenal. Is there anybody left in Holland? Listen to the noise. There's no commentary from me. Look at this. That is just a small section of the crowd which you see here on the lower slopes cheering Rooks on. Cameras went up earlier on this morning, and as the further up you go, the bigger the crowd becomes. And Alpe d'Huez, it's capable of handling thousands of people as a ski resort for the skiing, but it's impossible to get accommodation tonight. That's it, it's fully blocked. There's about 3,000 of the tour people. In fact, we're not going to be able to stay here tonight, not because there isn't accommodation. We could have got it. We've got to go wagging down for the time trial tomorrow. But last night the place was en fete, and as we came up the climb too, one thing our cameras showed this morning was the festivities going on, but one thing it couldn't show was the smells of the barbecues which were going full tilt last night. And I think the Dutch spectators we saw on the one side, they were trying to drink the whole of the stock of the alcoholic beverages dry out of the local supermarket. But undoubtedly this is a festive occasion, and if you ever want to see a stage in the Tour de France, this is one you should come and see. And the camaraderie is amazing amongst the spectators. They're from all nations. You're going to see all the flags here, as now we can see that Laurent Rooks coming up here looking for a King of the Mountains competition award, but Jalabert's after it too, and there are points at stake in the King of the Mountains. But in reality, this is going to be the day when it's going to be a showdown between Ulrich and Armstrong. The man in the yellow jersey this morning, oh great, he certainly lost that. He could keep the green points jersey, but it's all gone upside down today. That down there, Bourg-Brosson, the main group coming here. Ahead of them, Rooks is still going and looking for a stage victory, but somehow I think he's going to need the Angel wings. We've seen the Angel out on the side of the mountain further down there to take him up the mountain. This is going to be an intense battle up here. And Sean, as you come along the mountain, you know you've got that climb ahead. Is there any apprehension as you go along that flat part and you can see ahead? I know we've been over big mountains, but on this flat bit, just what's going through the minds of the riders?
Well, I think on the flat section here you try and rest as much as possible. The guys who've got to ride in the front, well, it's going to be very difficult for them on the Alpe, and they are going to just ride the first couple of 100 metres of the Alpe, and then we will see him pulling over. But what you do here is you just get in the wheel, get as much shelter as possible, and turn a smaller gear, not to be too heavy, and eat something, drink something, and just try and get ready the best you can for the climb.
Well, that's the climb then, and the one that we've been talking about so much here. It looks fairly steady on there, but and of course the odd thing which it doesn't do, it'd be nice to have a top shot down, wouldn't it, Sean, to the hairpins here. And as it goes, it seems to be always be a fairly consistent climb, and getting a bit tough towards the end. Then it levels off the last 5.5% towards the back end of it. So it's not too difficult, but I suppose it's the speed at which, and this is the first time we finished 1,850 metres above sea level. and finishing up there means that the Duffield could just go to the top, collapse and bang, that's it, and over we go to the time trial tomorrow. So here they are then, and up towards that first hairpin. 6 minutes 10 seconds then. 6:10 it is. Well, I don't know whoever invented that idea of going and finishing at a mountain top. It was 1952 when we first went up there when Fausto Coppi finished. Let me run through the people since then. Zotemuk in 76, Kuiper 77. We interviewed him earlier on here at our rostering point, and he was still full of memories of that. 79 and Zotemuk, and in fact they went up it twice that day. Agostini won the second time up there. In 1981, Winnan, 82 Bru, 83 Winnan again, 84 Herrera, 86 Hino, 87 Echavi, 88 Rooks, 89 Tunisia, Brugno, then the Italian side to take over, Brugno 1991, Hampston the American in 92, and then the Italians again came back with a bang with Conti in 94, Pantani in 95 and 97, and the last time was Guarini in 99. So one time dominated by the Dutch, who you wouldn't have thought would be able to make much of mountains when they live in such a flat country, but they did then, had some classic climbers, and they really stamped their authority on it. 20 times they finished, or the races finished at the top of the Alpe d'Huez. It wasn't opened for skiing until 1952, and that's when Coppi won the stage here and went on to win the overall victory in the Tour de France. And at that particular time in 1952, he was up there, was Coppi in the finish 28 minutes 17 seconds ahead of the second place man into Paris. That was Ockers in 1952. First time then we came up here to finish the Alpe d'Huez. We also finished the Sestrières that year as well, and the Puy d'Ôme, an amazing extinct volcano. So it was a tough old race that year, something like 4,898 kilometres. We're doing 3,400 this year, so it's 1,000 kilometres, 1,400 kilometres longer on that particular occasion when they went up. And that was the first time that we had television coverage of the Tour de France in 1952, and that was a man called Pierre Sabat was in charge of the television coverage of this. So, and bear in mind too that the Lanterne Rouge finished 7 hours and 15 minutes down on that day. And funny enough that whilst Fausto Coppi, who most people were bored to know that I look upon his idol, I mentioned because Fausto Coppi was a pursuit champion of the world. He was an hour record holder, but also that year it was the 50th Paris-Roubaix run by Van Steenbergen, and he won it, Van Steenbergen, in front of Fausto Coppi. Fausto Coppi that year won the Tour de France, and he won it on this hill. He set the scene then. Is this going to be the occasion now when it's going to be set the scene for the Tour de France, for the thing to go into Paris with the winner here today, winning the final stage or winning the jersey overall to Paris? What are the prospects then, Sean, today for this one, setting the scene for the rest of the Tour?
Yes, well, it's all to play for, but Roux is still doing a very, very strong ride. He's 6'10" still up, so he hasn't lost a lot against this train of riders who have been riding some of the Ibanesto riders who are riding with the Telecom riders. So he's holding on very well, but it's going to be impossible for him to hold out there. He's been out there so long all day. He's going to pay for that on the Alpe.
And the Dutch then will be there. These colours, well, that's Banesto. These are the colours then of the Dutch riders then going up on this particular climb, much cheered by the spectators on the side of the road. We just saw the Nierman from Rabobank, and up the front then Armstrong start to come through here at the moment. So that's Heras. Well, we thought Armstrong was in trouble earlier on, and now he's starting to have a go at this one, and it's earlier now that Ulrich's been going hard on the climbs with his teammates, but he's distanced. The Devil now himself is in full flight, and can then Armstrong here deal the death blow to Ulrich, who's got to ride hard, because Armstrong had been looking a bit rough all day, and suddenly he started the over Heras and the chips are down. But Harris hasn't been...
No, that's right, that was Knavegard. I thought it was Harris in the beginning, but it's Knavegard.
I was going to say, it didn't look... Also, he was looking... He launched the attack up there, but he doesn't look like he's got the capability to go, and it's going to be surely a head-to-head between Armstrong and Ulrich the way it's going to go. Ulrich's got no more of his team left. Suddenly, Ulrich's lost his telecom teammates. They're dropping off like flies now. The same thing with Armstrong. He's got Kjærgaard to go with him, and he's been in trouble too. Wunderkopf is going back here, and Armstrong is now attacking Ulrich, and Ulrich seems to have missed a beat. This is early on the climb. Armstrong looked in trouble. He's going away here like it's a time trial on his own. He's got Rooks up in front. This will be a death blow to the hopes, the aims and ambitions of so many riders. They can't recover and come back to him. Look at this again. He looks back. He looks at it. Eyeball to Ulrich, and he says bye-bye. Have you ever seen anything like that before, John?
Well, as I said, he was hanging in the rear of that group. When he was on camera, he seemed to be making faces, giving the impression he was suffering. But as I said, was he bluffing a bit? And it looks very like he was now. So the telecom guys, I think they reckoned that he wasn't on a good day, and they were riding to make the race difficult for him. But what a turnabout here on the first slopes of the Alpe. It's so early yet. If he keeps on going like this, he can take a lot of time from all his main rivals.
Well, if I was a poker player, I wouldn't play poker against Armstrong. He's been looking dog rough all day, hasn't he? And bang, he's gone like that. And I think I wouldn't dare go to play poker with. I don't play cards, but if I did, he's the last man I'd play poker with unless I got a deck that was stacked in my favour. So it looks like at this stage as if they're riding for second place. That's an amazing situation. We're watching really, in fact, a race within a race, because Simon started out this morning with an opportunity of taking the yellow jersey. He's been through a bad patch, and there we're seeing one by one the riders from both the telecom team and the US Post team drifting back, and the two top men now are showing at the front head to head. And he's on his very special lightweight bike. That's a silvery coloured bike, by the way. The Trek people have made a very special lightweight bike for Armstrong for the mountain climbing, and they have a unique system called Optimum Compaction Low Void, which is to do with the way in which they compress the carbon fibres into an optimum blend of the fibres and the thermoset epoxy, a very advanced glue. And they've made a very lightweight bike for Armstrong for this, but of course he has to be within the minimum weight of the UCI. Said you can't have a bike below 7.1 kilos, but that's a very light special Trek bike made in America, not one of these things where somebody badges a bike made by some hand-built specialist. This is what an almost stock bike, although it's made specially light for Armstrong, and there he's going away now, just riding up this. The speed at which he's going, absolutely amazing. And I'm sure back in British Eurosport that Chris Boorman and Mark Robson, and particularly Mark, who went up with Chris some time ago, will be as staggered as we are here, and I'm sure the British viewers will be interested to hear the feeling about this battle between these two riders. There you see, actually, Ulrich's taken the headphones, his little out of his ear, and is he going to say, well, blow you, Mr. Pevenage, Mr. Godefroot, whatever you say to me, I've got to ride this on my own, so goodbye radio communications, I'm just going to ride this at my own speed and do what I can. I think Bolocchi is there, Gonzalez Galdiano is there, Moro is there, Lasik goes there. 2, 4, 6 riders there. Oh, they're all going backwards now. And there, Jalabert looks like he's been, as I say, distancé or lashade. So it's every man for himself now. Armstrong has split this field in the first, 1.5 kilometres coming up, out, and the first part of this climb destroyed the whole thing. I don't even think in the days when Pantani got the record speed up here that he actually did it from here and just destroyed everything. I think he went progressively faster and faster and eventually left them. But the way in which Armstrong gone, normally we see on the Alpe d'Huez a group which starts out maybe 15, 20 strong, then it becomes 18, then it becomes 17, then it becomes 15, then it becomes 12, and you still get little groups up towards the end, and maybe 3 or 4 or 5 are left and 2 go down the road. But look at this, it's penny numbers. Yes,
what a turnaround by Armstrong. He looked it looked like he was suffering quite a lot in the earlier climbs, but it's definitely he was bluffing, and he's hit him so early. It's amazing if he can keep going at this pace. Like, he's going to take a lot of time out of Ulrich. Although Ulrich, when he gets settled down into the climb, he can maybe pull back the advantage of Armstrong, because he's that type of rider. He doesn't attack the climbs right from the beginning as well as Armstrong does.
What staggered me there as we just see going through that Patera that they got by. It's like a time trial, isn't it, Sean? There's one by one by one by one by one. And all these blokes are good climbers.
Yes, well, Armstrong, we can thank him, or they can thank him, let's say, for that, because he hit him so early. He did not give anybody a chance to get settled into the climb, as they say, and that's very, very hard after coming on the flat. You need 2 or 3 kilometres to settle in. A lot of riders need that, and he didn't allow him that. He just hit him in the first ramp of Alto d'Huez. He hit him, and that's what really does damage.
But they see they're all having a go now. Galdiano's going off here now from the Ulrich group. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4 in that group. It's virtually every man for himself, isn't it?
Yes, well, that is the case on the Alpe d'Huez a lot, because everybody is so tired after coming. They've over 100 mile done. They came over 2 old category climbs already, so everybody is very, very tired, and that's what you get in Alpe d'Huez. Then everybody just breaks up, and you're just in 1s and 2s. There's no such thing. This group here is a 5 or 6 man group, and that's probably the biggest you'll have between these, this first group that came to the bottom.
Spare a thought for Rooks out there at the front, as we also can see the battle going on here for people to have their own internal battle for the overall yellow jersey in the Tour de France in Sunday week in Paris. But Ronald Rooks, we had a brief look at him there on our camera. He went away after 6 kilometres of racing. This is a 209-kilometre race, and so if he gets to the finish, that'll be 200 kilometres. He was either on his own toward the back end here, or with 2 other riders, and he's been pressing on and pressing on and pressing on. And if he gets towards the end of this, he'll have done something like 120 odd miles out there, either on his own or with 2 other riders. He's inside the final 10 kilometres to go now. Armstrong is coming up to him at the moment. He won't take the overall yellow jersey, I don't think, Rooks, but he'll take certainly, I think, the most combativity award for the day. Well, there he is, get another attack going on his top. That's Igor Gonzalez Galdiano. They seem to all decide, well, if that's the way it's going to be, let's all have a go at this particular one. But fortunately, they ride and train up this one. They've got a good idea about it. But Sean, training up the ride and then doing it on top of the 190-kilometre racing to get here, there must be a hell of a difference between riding up it in training and actually coming and having a go on the race itself. As we look here at the Rooks, who I say has been out there now, 190 kilometres, I suppose. Wow.
Yes, well, certainly riding it up and training, you haven't done anything like they've been doing today, and when they've raced so hard, it's just the guys who can last the distance, the stamina guys, and they're the big champions can do that. The like of Armstrong we see, and all the guys who are the top favourites of the tour. Those are the guys who can last over the 100 mile and still climb Alpe d'Huez at a very, very fast pace. And Ulrich is still going very, very well here. He hasn't. He's not in trouble, as we say. He's climbing very, very well. But the speed that Armstrong is going, it's amazing the way he's attacked this climb.
Ulrich seems to be riding a much bigger gear. At least on the inside sprocket. What they say, I put their flexing and whizzing around here. Does seem to be pushing a somewhat bigger gear. Is that going to be to his favour on a long climb like this one? Or see, Armstrong flexes little gears, doesn't he?
Yes, well, that is the style of rider, and Armstrong, he turned the gear much a smaller gear than Ulrich. Ulrich, he's more of a strong man. He powers a bigger gear, and we see Kibelev here, who is trying to limit his losses, of course, because he's riding to to stay up there and lose the least time possible to Armstrong and Ulrich.
That is Sven Montgomery in the light-coloured jersey here, 181 is back. Bogart in front with 51 for the for the Rabobank squad, and certainly going through all the Dutch supporters. They'll be cheering him when he comes through. But this is Lance Armstrong wearing number 1 on his back as the winner over the last 2 years. You can see the stars and stripes waving here for his assault on this climb. Still ahead of him is Laurent Roux, and the gap is opening up all the time between himself and Ulrich. We'll pick him up more. I'd like to say he's been caught now. Gonzalez Galdeano, I think, has just been caught by the group containing Ulrich. This is a very interesting bike. He looks like he's got a very lightweight set of wheels there too, radial spoke wheels, and so he's got a bike very specially designed for this particular climb. He's flexing it, but 6 minutes 20 seconds is Simon. That's back from Roux, by the way. We keep getting these numbers coming out, 6 minutes 20, but that's the distance between Roux and Simon. The more interesting thing really is between Simon and anybody in this particular group here. So in this group at the moment, 2 more have gone off the back. Galdeano, Leyseka have gone off again. So look at Roux still going here. Well, Roux, where was he this morning on general classification, Sean? I think he picked it up. I think he was a bit down the pan, wasn't he?
Yes, he was 94th at 1 hour exactly.
So he's not going to get the yellow jersey. He's going to get a big round of applause if he gets this for being out there. If he gets to the finish, he'd have been out well over 200 kilometres. Armstrong is coming at him now. Armstrong is, he would be interested in getting Roux and getting to the stage, but I think his whole mind now is to blow the lid off Ulrich and the rest of the chaps who are left maroon behind him now. That's severe onslaught, but so 30. So in fact, just 1 minute and 30 seconds is the gap at the moment. 1 minute 30 seconds in Armstrong and Ulrich group. Is that recoverable? 130 at this particular stage?
No, it doesn't.
Unless Armstrong blows up, eh?
Yes, unless Armstrong, starts to struggle later on the climb. But the way, the impression Armstrong is given that he's climbing so smooth, I think, it looks like it's going to grow from here, and I think that's going to be the case.
Well, another rider's just got blown out of the Ulrich group, and looking at the start list this morning, Lance Armstrong, the difference between him and Ulrich, he was ahead of Ulrich this morning by 27 seconds. That was this morning. Don't forget, it's a race almost within a race, because that group that went away on the Stade in Pontalia with massive distances, but all those chaps who were in that 15-man group that got 35 minutes, they'll be lucky to get in within about 45 minutes of this group up here, because they just are completely out of contention. A lot of riders will have a job to get in between 20 minutes and half an hour of the race group. And look back down the road. If you've been with us since we started the coverage, or we just came in the last half an hour, our cameras went up there, and you can see right down little matchboxes. They are houses, and that is where they've come up now. And the way in which they're going around this, I don't think I could climb a railway bridge at the speed at which this lot are going here. They really are making it look very simple indeed. It's would you call it a power climb, actually, really, rather than what I call a gravel climb. The way these chaps are riding up here, it seems to be very in the corners very steep, but the rest of it is drag.
Well, it's a climb for a climber, because it's quite steep. You need a 39.21 is probably what the gear Ulrich is using. Armstrong seems to use a bit lower, 22, maybe 23, and he's turning the gear much faster. And if you can do that after such a long distance, it's the best way to go. And Armstrong is, he's known for that for the last couple of years, that he can turn the gear very, very fast in the climbs. And of course, it saps less energy. And Ulrich, he goes through a bigger gear, and after such a long day, it's hard to keep the big gear turning, because your strength is going to be leaving at this stage of the day.
Now, there's an interesting situation coming up here, because Armstrong looking to try and get the stage victory, and certainly distance himself from Ulrich. But as we're watching the ride on the front here, Roux, who 1 minute 20 seconds back to Armstrong, who may get up to Rooks before we get up to the finish. But going back down the Simon this morning, Francois Simon from Bonjour, was looking at the gap between him and Lance Armstrong. About 31, just under 31 minutes was between Simon and Armstrong. Simon, who's now gone off the Armstrong group, he has around about 30 minutes after Armstrong goes across the line, if he goes across the line ahead of the rest here. Whatever happens to be Armstrong, who's the best placed man of the what I call the top riders, because Rooks is so off the pace that it's still about 30-31 minutes that Simon has to get across the line beyond the winner of the stage, if it's either Armstrong or Ulrich or any of those people that were in that breakaway group. So what's the prospects of Simon still getting that yellow jersey, because he was there at the bottom of the climb? Can he lose half an hour on this climb to something like Armstrong, eh?
Well, in bike racing you never know. Simon has done a lot of he's done a lot of hard riding to stay in this group, because for him it's been a hard day and he's made a huge effort just to hang on in there. So he could be very, very tired. He could lose an awful lot of time on the Alpe d'Huez and the way Armstrong is climbing here. But I reckon he should be able to come in and take the jersey this evening.
So Montgomery and Bogart have now been dropped here, and it's just slimming down a bit. Still 3 minutes of 50, Botero. Now, Ulrich's doing all the work here. Do you think that they should come past, or can't they come past?
Well, that's always the case. Ulrich is the big favourite. He's with Armstrong, and when you're chasing Armstrong, well, the other riders leave you to do the work, and naturally they should be doing a bit, but everybody is tired, and they're trying to save as much energy as they can for the rest of the climb. And Ulrich really just has to get down to it and start riding, because he has a bit of a handicap if he's going to be looking around at the other ones sitting in his wheel, while Armstrong is just concentrating on what's ahead, and he has no handicap whatsoever.
7 kilometres and the gap coming down all the time. It's only 1 minute 20 last time check we had, and it's now 37 seconds. So there's no doubt about the Rooks is going to have Armstrong up his back wheel any minute now. And back in America, they'll be certainly getting very excited, I think, for today. They must have been disappointed to begin with. He looked like he was in terrible trouble and was at the back of the pack. He must have been playing a poker game there to stay there. He looked in trouble, his team looked in trouble, and it looked like the telecom squad had got it well done and dusted, but it hasn't worked out quite that way then. And this little group then behind them, led by Bilocchi, number 21, you can see Morrow in there too as well, and it's Ulrich that's having to do the work. I think it's Leiseca from the other team that's just back there, and Botero. So we've got a very interesting situation here that they're trying at the moment just to lessen their losses, as now Rooks comes on up here. Well, he has actually done now, or this with the races covered, 203 kilometres, and he's been out there for 197 kilometres of the race. He's going to certainly be the man of the match today, Rooks. He's got himself those £2,000 for going over the top of the climb of the Col de la Madeleine and getting the award for the memorial to the man Henri de Grange, who invented and thought about this Tour de France. It was the first of the big major tours, and who would have thought in 1903 that we'd seen an American rider not only winning it as Greg LeMond did, but then again we've now got another American rider, Lance Armstrong, looking for a hat-trick, by the way. He's won it twice in the past, and look how his rhythm, Sean, talks about the rhythm of this riding. That's unbelievable how he can turn that gear.
Yes, well, he's turning the gear much faster than Roux, but he's also going much faster. We will see now when he comes to me, we'll go by him very, very quickly. So Roux is suffering a lot now at this moment, and Armstrong just seems to be he seems to be even going faster as the climb go on, which is amazing. And Ulrich has lost 2:14 already to Armstrong. If it continues like this, he's going to take a lot of time from Ulrich.
And that will put the lid, I suppose, or not lid on it, but it's going to make Ulrich and his team rethink the tactics. So this is going to be quite a big gap already. We've got the time trial tomorrow. We've still got some big mountains in the Pyrenees. It's not normal that you see, not as far I'm concerned, in recent years, somebody try and destroy the thing and get the yellow jersey. He won't get the yellow jersey today, but he's put the frightness on everybody else and be well on his way, I think, for the time trial tomorrow to get it. All that dedication, all that training, all that determination that he's shown ever since he fought his way back from cancer. You can see it on his face now. He's planned for this race. And throughout the season, the rest of the rides he's been doing, I won't say he's been playing at it, because he went out there and got second place in the Amstel Gold. The way in which he rode in the Tour of Switzerland just about a couple of weeks ago, when he just destroyed the opposition there as well. But that almost was a pipe opener. Look down there at the Dutch flags. Well, they aren't going to get a winner today. They've got Bogart coming up probably in the top 10, but just savour the atmosphere of this, the greatest bike race in the world, the Tour de France on the Alpe d'Huez. They've been partying for the last couple of days, and the Dutch on the side here, they're just cheering on the sheer endeavour of these riders to go up this mountain, and the record is 37 minutes and 35 seconds. I'll be interested to see tomorrow when they count back on the time as to what Armstrong's time will be, because the way he took off at the bottom, it could be on his way to break that record too. He didn't come here to break the record, he's come here to really sort out Ulrich and the rest of the contenders to come at this start of the Tour de France, this particular point, to start to put this amount of gap between himself and the rest of the field. Well, I'm looking back, Sean, and I can't remember this happening. So you rode many Tour. Can you remember how this would in 10 days, in the days of the Tour de France when you were riding, so destroying everybody? The only one I can remember was Indurain in the time trial in about day 6 or 7 or something, but that was on his own, his speciality, not in the mountains like we're seeing here. Most of the riders have ridden, I'd say within themselves, but they've ridden to a certain plan. His plan here seems to me to just destroy everybody.
Well, yes, we've never seen a potential win of the Tour de France destroying everybody like this on the Alpe d'Huez or on any of the mountains for that matter. We've seen Pantani, who's done it on the Alpe d'Huez but at a later stage, but he's a natural climber, so this is a major surprise. But the way he's done it, he's bluffed quite a lot all day, and the Telecom riders did all the work, and I'm just wondering in the next couple of days what's going to happen, because they're not going to be happy with Armstrong's tactics. It's they did not, the US forces did not give any handout at all today. Armstrong is going to stay well out of suffering the early part on the first two climbs, especially on the Glendon, where he was hanging in the rear. But I reckon, was it bluff or just was he on a bad patch in the early part of the day? And that's the question they will be all asking this evening at this finish.
But do you think then, if they didn't contribute and Armstrong was only bluffing, that I won't say people gang up on him, but people don't like that. They didn't do a tap all day, did they, the US Post, and they just kept Armstrong. Well, in fact, he sat at the back for an awful long time and just waited and waited. And if that was a tactic only to go on the Alpe d'Huez, what will the atmosphere be amongst the other teams who are looking to go for that? Will they get together and there'll be US Postal versus the rest?
Well, I would hate to think, what way it's going to turn out, what way the other teams will take it. Armstrong's team maybe this year is not as strong because they've had quite a lot of bad luck, but he had some riders there with him, and as you say, they didn't contribute to any of the work today. And he's going to, the tactic is he's going to say, well, I wasn't good in the early part of the day, I suffered quite a lot and I came very good in the end. But is all the other riders going to believe that, and the teams? I don't know what the outcome is going to be.
A big talking point then here at the finish and throughout the rest of the race, and tonight in the press room, I suppose. Also, I know that our commentary goes out across the web to America. Many people at work maybe out there in America listening to our commentary are now elated that Lance has gone down the road and opened this big gap, and those people watching it on the Outdoor Life coverage, which is going out live too into America with Phil Liggett and Paul Sherwin doing it, they certainly were very pleased indeed to see the American riding into a position which could set the scene for the rest of this race. And my goodness, good news. Well, he's promised so much. He's put his whole season round the Tour de France, even though he's been out there, say, getting second places in the Amstel Gold Race earlier on behind Decker. He also won one of the tours, rode deliberately in that tour just to test himself on a mountain time trial. He went into the Tour of Switzerland and just thrashed everybody out of sight. So this is undoubtedly a remarkable performance by Lance Armstrong. He systematically worked to get this Tour de France this year. We're a long way to go yet a while, but he's just showing that determination has paid off. The same determination which enabled him to fight against cancer. He went through terrible conditions. I do suggest to you, if you can get a copy, just to read that book about, it says it's not about the bike. In other words, the Armstrong book was written, and it became, by the way, one of the best sellers in the lists in America. Not because about bike riding, but because how he went down with cancer. And in fact, it was when we came here just over about 4 years ago now, that no, it's been further back, it was 6 years ago, that we began to hear about his problems, and he fought his way back. He didn't have to come back to be a bike rider, by the way. Lance had enabled himself to put away a few bob in the bank, and really when he came into the Tour de France to win it for the first time and then win it again for the second time last year, it was just his determination as a courageous man. And people say, well, where did he come from? And there's been a lot of question marks in the French about this man, but I remember when he won the World Championship in Oslo, I don't think he was 20 or something like that, or 2021, and he rode away on that final lap, went away, left everybody for dead, and it was terrible wet weather conditions, and he just romped home and nobody could get near him. Well, as a triathlete, he was riding as a junior triathlete against the seniors. He didn't tell them his age, and in fact the first triathlon he won, he got amongst the seniors and frightened the pants off them, and they turned and said, who is this guy? He got a pair of like ordinary running shorts, he got a pair of ordinary shoes on, not the proper shoes at all. He was just out there with a simple set of trainers, and he came along and thrashed the daylights out of many of the senior riders. He went on to be in the triathlon over the Olympic distance a national champion too. He then decided to switch to the cycling part of the triathlon. He preferred that most of all, and then he just went on and on. I say world champion, and then he battled against cancer, and now he's battling against this man Ulrich, for whom many people, including myself, said it's Ulrich's year. Ulrich had come into it much better with the kilometres he put in during the Tour of Italy, but right now he's gone. This is the man still in the lead. As he's going up here, then looking for probably the second spot, maybe the third spot. I don't know. He's still here, burying himself. We're just waiting for the text coming through. Well, Armstrong is 4 kilometres to the rival. I can't get the gaps coming back here now at the moment, but undoubtedly the man of the match today has been Rooks, and I'm sure he get a special prize for his performance today. On top of that, £2,000 he got for the rider over the top for the Henri de Grange Memorial after the Col de Madeleine. Sean, a quick rundown on how you see this race now. What's happening? Coming towards 3 kilometres. This is a devastating performance. Before the thing erupts at the finish, a few words from you.
Yes, well, as Armstrong has really, I think he surprised everybody, considering the way he was riding earlier on today, and not only Ulrich, but I think all the other riders. We see now is Ulrich. I think Ulrich might come back on Armstrong because he's a guy who can finish stronger, and we see Murrow, who's losing ground. Belucchi is also in trouble. So if Ulrich can get rid of those guys, and he's doing that now, yes, we see he's going by a rule now at the moment. So if Ulrich can get away on his own and just do his own thing, I think he can maybe hold Armstrong and maybe take a little bit of time back. At the moment, it's around the 150 mark, 1 minute 50. So it's man against man here really for the tour.
I've got my watch out now. We're hearing the excitement coming out. Normally the race radio, they're quite saying number 21 in the lead by they're like that. And at the moment the cacophony of sound coming up from the time checks, and the man on the motorbike is getting carried away like everybody else. Then 3 kilometres to go, and it gets, it's a false flat here. Then it turns and goes up through the Alpe d'Huez. A massive crowd of people looking down here and waiting. They've been racing now for 6 hours 17 minutes, 6 hours and 17 minutes, and look at the way that Armstrong is coming up here. Over the years, this has been a very famous climb, and I was saying I don't think I've seen an onslaught like this before. In reality, that's what I'm calling modern era, because Fausto Coppi went on to win the Tour de France. In fact, won by 28 minutes in the end, and it was up the Alpe d'Huez in 1952 that he put his platform up to win the race overall. So it could be that we're saying we can't remember, it's because we're looking back in what I call recent years, but certainly maybe Coppi went away and did exactly the same thing to destroy everybody, because that came on, just looking back here, it was about the 10th stage into the race. So probably rather similar. 2 minutes is the gap now then, and I've just got my watch running. They've said 2 minutes. I put it on at the 3 kilometres from the top of the climb, and I've got it running now to see if it's coming down from 2 minutes or if it's growing. Armstrong now coming round. Well, 2 minutes is too much to jump across in just 3 kilometres, but can Ulrich do anything about it to pull it back then? And Armstrong still again, that superb smooth pedalling style. What a difference, Sean.
Yes, well, Armstrong's rhythm looks, and his pedal stroke looks much better than Ulrich's, because he's turning it, he's turning the pedals much faster, and it looks better. Ulrich, he looks to be laboured and he looks to be under pressure, but he's on a higher gear, so he's not pedaling as fast, but he's still moving along quite quickly, and he's going to get down to it now, because he doesn't have the distraction of the guy sitting on his wheel, and that is always a distraction when you have 3 or 4 riders sitting on you. But interesting there, we have in between, of course, we have Rooks, but we have Armstrong, we have Ulrich, we have Belocchi, we have Morrow, we have the classmen from last year's tour, and it could be very well the places to finish here today.
And it was down to 1 minute 52 or 1 minute 53, so Ulrich has pulled a little bit back. We're only talking about a handful of seconds, not really a big chunk of time, but so Ulrich is certainly holding Armstrong and pulling back a little bit despite the contrast in styles, but he's not making much inroads into that, and he did start out this morning 27 seconds down on Armstrong. There's also 20 seconds bonus at the end of the stage, so Armstrong could end up a good 2 minutes ahead of this man. And don't forget that Armstrong, whilst he's coming up here to take the stage, all being well, he may not take the yellow jersey, because Simon was still something like about 30 minutes ahead of Armstrong on general classification this morning, but this rate of knots he might even lose all of that too. Goodness knows what that is. That's the Dutch people celebrating again. I think we're getting close to our hotel was on the left here somewhere, and we looked out this morning across the calmness of the Alps and the snow up there. A very calm, cool, sharp one this morning. Who would have thought it would all change as Armstrong erupted and blown everybody to pieces? This is the route up now, and route de signal. That was our hotel was under there, and now it's a run in towards. It's a fairly easy one, by the way. That new island they've got there is not too difficult to get round, nor this one here, so he should be okay. We won't have another photographer step out, I don't think, I hope not, with the camera to take a picture like we did have a couple of years ago when Guarini got decked by the man with the camera, but still went on to get to the stage. Ulrich then, full of determination, and he has undoubtedly started to come back quicker at Armstrong, and unfortunately I pressed the wrong button on my watch just down the road there, so I can't tell you if he's improving, but certainly he was holding Armstrong and might in fact have been just pulling back a little bit, but Armstrong is whizzing that small gear. That I think is a pointer to younger riders, isn't it, Sean? Because I've always believed in lower gears, the lower the better, providing that what I call too low.
Yes, well, that was always the guidance for younger riders, to use the lower gears in the early part of the career, and it is very important, and I think it's something the pros the gear they use, the too big a gear maybe in the latter part of the stages, and it's not a good thing, but for the younger age it's definitely very important. But Ulrich here, when we see Armstrong attacking on the first slopes of the Alp here, it looked like that he was going to take a lot more time out of Ulrich. I was worried that he was going to take quite a number of minutes, but I think Ulrich is living his losses and he's fighting, and 2 minutes is not going to be the tour is definitely not over today.
And they're coming up behind Belocchi, who finished in third spot on the overall Tour de France last year. The winner, Lance Armstrong, won by 6 minutes and 2 seconds from Ulrich. Belocchi was 10 minutes and 4 seconds back as we come inside the final kilometre now of the race, and certainly Armstrong pressing on towards the finish, going to get the stage now. Belocchi is lying in third spot. Moreau is back into a fourth spot as well. So the top four riders from last year's Tour de France are in the same ratio now, and the time that Armstrong's punching out, well, they've still got the time trial tomorrow. We've still got two big stages in the big climbs up into the Pyrenees, so they could still be losing some more time, but the aggression that Armstrong's shown here has certainly put the race into a different situation with the time trial tomorrow too as well. Armstrong going in here for the success, will not probably start last man on the road, but he could be in the last 2 or 3 places, probably last but one, because Simon's still struggling. He's got to knock half an hour out of Simon, and whoops, hit a bump then. He's got to knock half an hour to Simon to take the yellow jersey. I don't think he's going to do that, but he's certainly going to take the stage here, adding his name to the great roll call of honour of great riders that have come across the line on the Alpe d'Huez. And certainly again, I'd be interested to see the record for this climb is 37 minutes and 35 seconds, and that's down to Pantani, who's not racing the Tour de France this year. What is a turn up to the books it will be if Armstrong not only gets the victory, which he's going to do, but breaks Pantani's record. And for my money, Sean, I don't think he's going to be far away from it. The way he's come up here, he's rocketed up this climb, eh?
Well, certainly not, because he took off in the early part, the first slopes and Alpe d'Huez, but the way he's finishing here, we see him there. He went onto the big chainring, like, and he's finished on that. And it's amazing. It's amazing, like, after such a day, on top of such a climb, to be able to do that.
It's mayhem, really, here at the finish. Look at this lot here. Up comes Ulrich now, over 1 kilometre separating the two of them. The last time check was round about 2 minutes. You'll see the clock, or we'll see the clock up here. It's now showing 19 seconds, and I think he may have pulled back a little bit, Ulrich, and he's not given up by any means, so we could still have this 2-horse race, but round one is certainly going to Armstrong, as up comes Ulrich now. Concentrate, he's not letting go at all. He's got the biggest gear he could possibly push, compared with Armstrong twiddling on his little diddy gear, and now here pedaling away, pushing on the pedals, giving everything he's got to this. The amateur world champion, previous winner of the Tour de France. He's been, 3 times second as well. Well, what a disappointment. He ends up in Paris second, but he's certainly going to fight not only every centimetre of the way here to the stage finish in the Alpe d'Huez, but I'm sure we've not seen the last of this battling German riders, so we've got a head-to-head in the time trial tomorrow, and we understand now Rooks has got the polka dot jersey, because he's coming up here in a position which could take him into that polka dot jersey, as Armstrong has finished. But Ulrich, then look at the determination in his face. These two riders have treated us in this last 40 minutes of this long stage from Aix-les-Bains to Alpe d'Huez. We've been on air since 10:30 this morning, and the whole thing erupted. We had an overture, an orchestra for the beginners, and this great drama of a day of an opera being fought out, and the curtain's going to go down at the end of this lot with a fantastic finale, with Armstrong taking the stage, and here he comes. He was at one time over 2 minutes down. He's going all the way to stay close, as he can do, to Armstrong. Will it be 2 minutes? Will it be under 2 minutes? He's done everything, and in fact he's just under 2 minutes at 1:59. He never let up towards the end. These two riders are still going to come back, and my goodness, we're going to see some great racing still in this Tour de France. Across the line then goes the man who finished in third spot last year. Josep Belocchi was with Festina last year, transferred to the Once team. France now happy too to see Christophe Moreau coming in here. He's still in contention too. Look at the clock on the left-hand side. He looks cool and calm, does Moreau. Well, he's a good time trialist, and he might do well tomorrow in the time trial. He's lying there third at the moment on the stage here, but coming into in fact, he's going to be better on general classification, I think. Just have a little look back to see where he was this morning. Compared with Armstrong, he was about 1:20. So no, Armstrong's moved up on general classification tomorrow, but Moreau is still there in the top 4 places. And then Bottero, well, we tipped him as being a possible victor of the stage today, but he met Armstrong on one of his on days. So that's the top 4 riders that have come in to the finish now. In fact, Bottero finished in 7th spot in the Tour de France last year. Heras and Veronk finishing in 5th and 6th overall. Veronk not riding this year, and Heras working for Armstrong, having gone across to join up with the US Postal Squad. Well, is this Kivilev coming in, Sean? I can't see anything. It's very blurred on our screen. This is Kivilev. Now, there's another danger man, because Kivilev this morning, 22 minutes and 7 seconds, with Armstrong 35. He was about 13 minutes ahead of Armstrong on the classification. So, in fact, Armstrong won't be the last one to start, because there's only a short distance here. So, Kivilev is still a threat for the yellow jersey, isn't he? Even if he may not keep it to the end, he's still a good threat, isn't he?
Yes, well, he is. He has a very good chance of taking the yellow jersey for a number of days. He's doing a very good ride here. He hasn't lost a lot of time, so I think we could see him in the yellow jersey going into the Pyrenees.
Kivilev coming in with Bogart, the Dutchman, coming up here, being at the top 10 place, I think. But Kivilev, this man could be in yellow at some point during the race. I'm not sure he can take it all the way to the finish the way Armstrong's going at the moment, but he's going to come in here, Botero, and he was, 14 or so minutes up on Armstrong this morning. He's only lost 4 now, so he's still about 10 minutes ahead of Armstrong on general classification. Wow. Well, the young rider coming in here, Montgomery,
Botero,
behind Botero, who we thought was going to do well, didn't quite get it today, but certainly we had him down to win. He's coming 5 minutes down, and he didn't like the look of that one, did he? So we think Sevilla is going to take the white jersey as the best young rider. We're just getting confirmation of that coming through on our headphones. Sevilla it was for the Calvin Costa Blanca team that finished just ahead of his team up, Botero. Now, O'Grady certainly will be in the green jersey. He'll keep that one he's got already. He lost the yellow jersey. Now, is Simon going to get the yellow jersey? He had about 30 minutes lead on Armstrong. And what's going to happen too with the relationship between Kivilev and Simon? Because between the two of them this morning, there was a gap of round about 18 minutes. They're about 18 minutes. I've got the watch running with Kivilev back to Simon. I think Simon could well take that yellow jersey. We'll have to wait and see though, as Bruce, the champion of France, brings this little lot in. Belly's at the back here, and also Merckx is coming in too. His father here is commentating for Belgian TV. Useful time for a man who's quite tall and quite big, and not really expected, I think, to do a lot in the mountains. So it's just come through here and waiting to see what's happened. As in comes Bruce now, and just finishing also there.
Simon at 2 kilometres. So yes, he can definitely take the jersey.
Right, because it's 6 and a bit minutes. Yes, he's certainly going to take the jersey. It's a painful way to take it, though. Sean, look at his face.
Yes, well, he's run very hard all day. He's made a huge effort to get over the other 2 major climbs. Normally on a stage like this he would not go as hard, but over the Madeleine and the Blandon he's really stuck in there. So he's suffering now. But I think at the end of the day that was his dream, to take the yellow jersey.
There's an amazing lack of crowd control here at the finish. It's just getting unbelievably fraught, as we've just seen Mikhailov of the Lotto team finish. And they've got to stand back, because the yellow jersey, it could be Simon coming up here, and the crowd and everybody is going to go absolutely bananas. But it does seem to me that the press, everybody wants to interview everybody here, and it's absolute mayhem. Our cameras may pick it up. The crowd control seems to have gone completely out the window, or over the top of the Alps, the case may be, as Garzelli, who was going rather well on the first climb of the day, the winner last year of the Tour of Italy, brought into the Mappe squad to give them some punch in the big tours. It seems now to gone out off the frame, I think, for a place in the top 10, because a lot of good climbers are coming ahead of him, and he's lost some 7 minutes and 55 seconds on Armstrong. Back again then to the group here, and it's still Simon doing all the work on the front. Nobody's coming past him, actually. Is that because of the determination he's going for, or can't they pass him, or is he just sort of, well, I'll blow you a lot away at the same time? He's really burying himself, isn't he?
Well, I think everybody is with him as is suffering a lot, and I think they're happy just to stay and hang in the wheel, and he's setting quite a strong straight ahead pace all the time, so I think everybody's just happy to be able to follow.
Well, we're all waiting here with bated breath as they're coming in here, these riders who fought their own private battles on this climb, and just looking down the road, is Simon here? No, he's not here yet a while. Oh dear. And there's great swarm of photographers, as I said before. People wanting, they're getting closer and closer to the finish line. They're going to have a hell of a job to get across the line. Simon's still coming through here. Well, the family's going to be very pleased with this one. One of his brothers got the yellow jersey, didn't he, in the Tour de France? Didn't he sort of crash out when he was wearing it, Sean? What was the story about one of his brothers?
Yes, Pascal Simon was the race leader, I think, for 6 or 7 days, and he crashed. I think it was on the stage, maybe 2 Alpe d'Huez, and he broke his shoulder.
There is Laurent Jalabert. Well, he tried to get the polka dot jersey in the King of Man's competition. He has quite a hatful of points. We'll probably see it on our screen shortly. Mike Smith back there in Paris. Have you been updating the actual numbers, the points in the King of Man his jersey? Because Laurent is out of the points now, isn't he?
Yes, he is, and there's no doubt that Rooks has definitely taken over leadership in the polka dot competition. A just reward, I think, for an incredibly brave effort.
What was his points, Rooks? Can you just remind us?
Well, it was 109 points before the points that he will get for L'Alpe d'Huez. And there have been enough riders now over the top before Laurent Jalabert. Jalabert might just score perhaps 1 or 2 points, very few. Rooks undoubtedly scoring a lot more than him. So the margin at the end of the day is going to be far, far too good for Jalabert. Rooks definitely King of the Mountains leader at L'Alpe d'Huez.
And coming in here, Simon, you can see there in the blue jersey with the red stripes, and the other riders now are just drifting past him. He carried him across the line, but he's got it now. 10:20 is the gap back. He started this morning with about half an hour ahead of Armstrong. He had this morning something like about 18 minutes ahead of Kivilev. So he's got that jersey, and Kivilev was only about 6 minutes ahead of him on the line. The rest of the riders coming. Jalabert now too here on the left-hand side. The French crowd will really applaud him because he had a good go today, but in the end it wasn't enough to take the points jersey. But as it is with Rooks at the moment, then they'll have something to cheer about. Yellow jersey looks like for Francois Simon. Polka dot jersey for Rooks. The green jersey will stay with O'Grady, and the white jersey has gone to Sevilla of the Calme team. And now we've got the information that Rooks has also got the combativity, the Coeur de Lion combativity award for his performance today. Well, this man didn't get the combativity award, but at the moment it looks like he's ridden himself into a future yellow jersey. I say future, it could take the time trial tomorrow and probably the first day in the Pyrenees, I think, to get the jersey. What do you think, Sean?
Well, on today's performance of Lance, it won't be long before he will be back in yellow. The way he blew everybody to away on the bottom of the Alpe d'Huez, and the way he came up there today, it was so impressive, and we were so concerned about him earlier on. But I think the Telecom team, they will rethink their tactics tonight, because I think they were led down the wrong road by the tactic of Armstrong. He bluffed him a bit, and they thought that he was having a bad day, and they worked very, very hard for really nothing today, and I'm just wondering what the tactic will be from here on in for the next number of days in the mountains.
And did you see that again, that replay? There's presumably go out on one of our highlights program. If you didn't see it live, by the way, that look that Armstrong gave to Ulrich, it was one of those looks, I suppose, that Mike Tyson, when he goes into the ring, just looks at the opponent on the other side of the ring and says, I'm going to give you a right thumping today. Well, it was Armstrong that ripped the race to pieces, but all due credit to Ulrich. He lost over 2 minutes at one particular point and came back to be inside 2 minutes. So at the back end, either Armstrong just eased a little bit towards the top end, or Ulrich managed to get his power going, pedalling an entirely different way to Armstrong, as Armstrong takes the stage victory here, and there he goes across the line. And I'll be interested to see how the speed at which he came up this mountain and how it compares with that of Marco Pantani, who in 1997 came up in 37 minutes and 35 seconds. This looked a lot faster, but when whatever the speed was, it doesn't really matter. He's got the stage victory, and he's now about to stamp his authority on this race yet again. Lance Armstrong, twice winner of the Tour de France, ex-world champion, now up there with the laurels for a stage victory here in the Alpe d'Huez, and that is only the second one. It is the second American, by the way, to win the stage at the Alpe d'Huez, because his countryman Hampson had already got it before. But Hampson was a true climber, and there we can see then the provisional result of the stage, and it was 1:59 back to Ulrich, who really hung on for grim death. But those top four places, that's the way they finished in the Tour de France in the year 2000 in the Champs-Élysées. Let's hope, well, not to say hope, but I think we haven't seen the end of it yet, and that one or two of the riders here will be battling for the lower places. But can anybody topple Armstrong after this tremendous 10th stage of the Tour de France? Well, they're going to be coming an awful long time yet. There's 14 minutes showing on your screen, and we only had, what, about 30 riders in, Sean?
Yes, well, there's a lot of riders to come in. I think listening there earlier on, the time that the guys had lost, they had lost 25 minutes very, very early in the day, so they're going to have a race up this Alpe d'Huez as well. I think the Group S are going to go to pieces, because everybody's going to be worried about getting inside the time limit.
And the time limit is worked out on the category of the particular day's stage, because they'll say, oh, this is category this is category that, and they'll have a time limit for the riders coming up here. And yes, perhaps one or two, there's a big cheer going on for somewhere, but we're not seeing it. Oh, Simon, yes, right. Well, Sean, the Simon family, moment of elation for them, do you think, again?
Yes, certainly is. Simon, he's always dreamt about winning a stage in the Tour, but he said the yellow jersey is better.
Well, there he is then. Interviews now with Lance Armstrong.
Comme d'habitude avec l'Alpe d'Huez, parce que les deux grands cols avant, comme le Merlin, qui est très long, pas très dur mais très long, et le Grand Nom qui est très dur. Oui, l'Alpe d'Huez, les mystiques, les spécial cols.
Alors, Lens, toute la journée, nous étions en direct sur France 2. Des millions de gens en France ont vu l'étape. Et alors, on voyait le groupe dans lequel vous étiez avec Jan Ullrich. Jan Ullrich faisait toujours rouler ses équipiers. Et vous étiez derrière. On s'est même demandé, on s'est dit, est-ce qu'il connaît une mauvaise journée?
Ouais. Mais Telecom...
I actually stopped Sean from translating, because I thought he was going to speak in English, because he always wants to speak in English, but in fact we haven't been translating this. You've had to listen Armstrong in French. I turned up another knob to discover he's actually speaking French, and we've missed out. But I've seen that Sean's been listening to this, so when he's finished, perhaps Sean can give us the gist of Armstrong's comments, because normally he doesn't like to speak French, he prefers to speak English, but he's changed his mind now.
Yes, well, he said that he was asked a question about the stage. You look very tired, and he said yes. Well, that was my tactic, and he said the Telecom team was very strong, but I played a bit of poker.
He did too.
Ici, tout le monde regardait les faces. Ah, c'est bon, c'est pas bon, c'est mal, c'est pas mal, blablabla. C'est ça.
Dans votre tête.
When the cameras come, he said he gave the impression that he wasn't too comfortable, and he said, I suppose it created that the people were, is he in a bad day? Is he good? Is he bad? Is he bluffing?
And he was bluffing.
Et puis seulement Ulrich qui relève. Je suis un peu fatigué et bon, c'est des attaques. Mais
Ulrich and Kivilev were a bit tired, and I attack.
Plus près, trop près. C'est mieux attendre un peu, parce que c'est pas facile à rouler 13 km comme ça.
Et demain, le contre-la-montre, Grenoble-Champs-Rousse, très important.
Oui, c'est sûr, c'est vrai, c'est très important.
Tomorrow is a very difficult stage, yes.
Un grand test.
A very important stage.
C'est une autre raison, parce
And a big test.
rouler pas plus tard, attaquer pas plus tard.
Well, we've now gone to the presentation on the roster. I think you still have the translating going on in the background now.
Merci, Lance. Merci beaucoup de venir avec nous.
I hope tomorrow not to be too tired, because it's a big day.
that was the interview with Lance Armstrong. Sorry, it's my fault that we missed out the first bit and you got the French version, because he has openly said over the period of time he doesn't like being interviewed in French in case he gets misconstrued, but we got that nice and clear. Now then, Rooks has taken the polka dot jersey, and that's going to be some elation for the team of La France, John Latour, because John Latour's team had the polka dot jersey with Albland. Now it's gone to another their team. He was recruited a bit late into the season. He wasn't on the original list, I don't think, of the de la Tour team, but he's now with them this season, and he's really repaid them for putting him into the team. He's been around some time now and had a bit of a checkered career when he was with the TVM squad, but now he's taken over that polka dot jersey and got himself a stage, not stage victory, nearly got a stage victory, but certainly got the polka dot jersey because of it. There's a gap, you see, 11:54 back to Kivilev. It's flashed up on your screen, and I'm interested to see how it goes further back down there. And Kivilev, to me, is the danger man in the short term. Depends on his time trialling tomorrow, but Kivilev, a young rider, full of determination, and 11 minutes, is that possible for him to pull it back in the time trial against Simon? Because Simon, I'm sure, is going to be pretty tired for tomorrow. Sean, what do you think?
Well, I think yes, Simon has really went deep today, and tomorrow I think he can pay for that. 11 minutes, I think it's still a nice advantage, and I reckon that Simon can hold on tomorrow to the yellow jersey.
Well, there we are then. Sibel taking the white jersey for the Calmay team. We had been thinking that Bottero, his teammate, would get the stage today, but he didn't quite make it. That was it. So we're going on to the time trial tomorrow. And on that particular occasion, as he savours the fact he's the best young rider, Seve, who's setting the scene then with the head-to-head tomorrow of some of the boys looking to be up in the top 10 in Paris. It's going to be over a time trial from Grenoble to Chamrouse, a total distance of 32 kilometres. That's 20 miles, but it does go up quite a bit, by the way. It finishes 1,730 metres above sea level, so they're going to be climbing tomorrow about 1,500 metres up to the top of the Oak category Chamrouse. That's going to be a very hard one indeed. It could really cause quite a disturbance and upset. Armstrong has been showing he's in superb climbing form. He's been practicing up that mountain time trial course, as has Ulrich too. We're on for a great day tomorrow, I'm certain about that. Sean will be looking forward to it. I'll be looking forward to it. Mike Smith will be continuing with some commentary work after this, by the way, looking back at this remarkable stage, and also there in British Eurosport Studios in Langley near the west side of London, there'll be Chris Bowman and Mark Robson. Well, Mark Robson, no doubt, looking back at the time when he went up here, and you'll no doubt compare his time with that of Armstrong today and that of Ulrich today, but they really had a head-to-head fight between these two. At the moment, it's Armstrong that's come out 1-0 against Ulrich. Tomorrow, I hope you join us for our coverage then to see if they're going to level the scores, or if Ulrich suddenly finds himself 2-0 down to Lance Armstrong. So that's been a great day here. I hope you've been with us for part, if not all of it. Those who've been with us all day, you have my sympathies. No, you have my thanks. Thanks much indeed. We've had a fascinating day. It's been a long day in the saddle. Now we're going to go into a dark corner and recover. We look forward to your company tomorrow, Sean Kelly and myself, David Duffield. Thanks again. Do stay with us though on Eurosport. More coming up.